This week, reports have been flying out of Syria that President Assad's troops used chemical weapons, killing 85 people. This very afternoon, American President Donald Trump ordered an airstrike on Syria. To discuss the lead-up, the ramifications, the international expert, Dr. Robert Patman, joins me in the studio. Always good to have you here, Dr.
Thank
Patman.
you, Craig.
This is a very, very concerning series of events that have cascaded into today's actions. Can we have a bit of a framework from you?
Yes, the week began with members of the Trump administration saying they were looking for cooperation with the Assad regime into intensifying the fight against ISIS in the Syrian civil war.
Okay.
On Wednesday, things began to change dramatically when the administration was outraged to discover that the dictatorship in Damascus had dropped chemical weapons in a suburb controlled by the rebels in northern Syria.
That's those hideous pictures of the sarin
Yes,
gas.
85 people killed, and mainly children.
Yeah.
And I think Mr. Trump was genuinely affected by the images. The other thing was he had very good intelligence from American intelligence services that Assad was responsible. Apparently they had monitored the takeoff of the aircraft.
Right.
They knew precisely where the aircraft came. They were also irritated by the blanket denials given by both the Syrians and their allies, the Russians and the Iranians. And Mr. Trump was quoted yesterday as saying that this was beyond the pale, and it couldn't be basically countenanced or tolerated, and something should happen. And people wondered what it would have. Well, we got the answer today. It was a targeted airstrike involving more than 50 Tomahawk missiles on the airbase where the chemical weapons attack was launched.
Well, that's a decisive action, perhaps the first decisive action of this orange president to date.
Yeah.
It's changed the way in which he is being considered as a president. It's very likely to have changed the tactics on the ground as well, because if there are Russian ground troops involved, this is going to change the theatre of war in some way in the Middle East.
This has got massive implications. Firstly, we do not, although this is a U-turn by Mr. Trump, this use of military force in Syria. He warned Mr. Obama never to use military force in Syria. He said it was a waste of America's resources, it wouldn't get us anywhere. And yet, once he got into office, he decided that this was the right thing to do. We now wait to see if this attack or military retaliation against Assad is part of a new coherent policy. Because at the beginning of the week, it was a different policy. So we've got to, in a sense, we've got to wait and see that. And it also has massive implication for the United States' relations with both Russia and Iran. Apparently, the Americans did warn the Russians shortly before the Tomahawk missile attack to evacuate from the airbase in question. So they did get some warning, but we still don't know, and we'll probably find out over the weekend whether there were Iranian or Russian casualties as a result of this airstrike.
Watch this space. Using the word coherent doesn't really seem to be much of a language, part of the language that I would actually interpret as being with the Trump presidency.
Yeah, but to be fair, the Trump supporters would say this is deliberate, that Mr. Trump wants to be unpredictable and he wants to put the fear of God into dictators like Assad, that they don't know where they are with them.
Dr. Robert Patman, thank you so very much
Thank
indeed.
you.
You should definitely be a man in the need at the moment.